Meet the most capable CR-V Honda has ever dreamed of. The all-new CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid. With all-terrain tires and available enhanced traction control, it's built for wherever the day takes you. Heated front seats and a heated steering wheel? Ideal for winter drives and crisp early starts. And with generous cargo space, it's ready for big gear and even bigger getaways. The CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid. Learn more at honda.com/CRV.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today we're walking to F1, the movie. Kathy, how are you feeling about this? I know the answer. Nobody else does. Why don't you tell everyone why you don't want to go to this?
It's a funny one because we love sports movies. I don't watch F1, but I have, of course, seen Senna and love it. I didn't want to watch this film because Brad Pitt is in it and he's someone I find troubling, and
you have the Brad ick.
I have got the Brad Pitt ick, yeah. I find him troubling and odd, and you can Google very easily the allegations that have been made against him. And I really didn't enjoy the last film I saw him in, which was Quentin Tarantino.
Have we not seen him since that?
Man, what was that film again?
It was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So I really didn't enjoy that film.
No, we hated that film.
So I'm a bit icky on Brad Pitt, but then everyone I know and trust has been to see this because it's been out now a couple of days and said they love it. And we love sports movies, so here we are. Dave, are you excited?
Yeah, I am. This is the writing and directing team, Joseph Kosinski, directing this, that made Top Gun Maverick, which, as we all remember, was one of the best films of 2020 of pandemic era.
It was such a good film, yeah.
It was so good. And so this trailer is awesome. It looks like fast zoom car, cameras mounted on cars, much like they did in the Top Gun airplanes. Mm-hmm. It looks fast, frenetic. It looks cliche to all hell. It looks like it is just terrible dialogue and an obvious plot of an aging underdog. And I am here for that, because when it comes to sports movies, cliches all the way, please.
Cliches all the way, and also aging underdogs all the way. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I haven't really paid much attention to the trailers, but I do know Kerry Condon's in it. Love her.
With her own accent. We're in a world now where Irish people are allowed to be Irish on screen,
which is revolutionary.
Because Irish actors are so hot right now.
Though I hope she's not putting on a bad Irish accent, which often they're forced to do, despite the fact that they have a normal Irish accent. Right, we'll be back after we've seen F1.
So you like straight talk?
Straight as an arrow, no sugar.
Why are you here, Sonny? When you look in the mirror, you see this rough and tumble, old school cowboy. Doesn't take orders, goes his own way, huh? A lone wolf. Well, I've news for you. Formula One is a team sport. It always was. Listen, let's get this straight. We all lose our jobs if you can't pull off a miracle.
No pressure. None.
The only question here is, why did Sonny Hayes come back to F1?
Hi, we're back. We have seen F1 the movie. If it's your first time at the Cinemile, we won't spoil F1 the movie until we get to Spoiler Street, which is up ahead, turn 3, which we'll get into after a 200-kilometre sprint. I don't know how F1 works. Is that obvious?
Great metaphors here.
Yeah, we got to do the pit stop. We got to change our tires to the hard tires, because the soft tires can only be used for the first part of the...
to engage with this, whatever this is.
So, Kathy, what do you think of that movie?
I have mixed feelings. I enjoyed a lot of it. I will say I think it's too long and I got a bit bored by the end. But in terms of the spectacle and the scale of it, and it being a sports film, I did enjoy it. However, when I compare it to films like Creed or Top Gun Maverick that we mentioned earlier.
Top Gun Maverick, not a sports film.
Not a sports film, but a film about an old guy kind of coming in to a space where typically young men are.
Made by all the same people. So I think it's a fair comparison, yeah.
I think what Brad Pitt has missed in the whole point of this is that he, the old man, is not actually supposed to be the main character.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think the film's completely run away and run too far with its focus on Brad Pitt, and that's, I include all the marketing and that. And this is not about my personal distaste for Brad Pitt. I just think he's too prominent in the film, and the characters around him suffer for it. Particularly his co-driver, who barely gets much screen time. Look, F1 is not a sport I'm interested in. It's not a sport that I would ever be interested in watching. I know a lot of people love F1, and particularly in the last number of years, I know it's gained a more female audience because of the Drive to Survive Netflix show, which got a reference in this film. So I know loads of people love it, so I'm not criticising anyone's love of anything. But for me, I'm not interested in it. I do find it really gaudy, to be honest, and I just think in the midst of a climate crisis, I don't particularly like the idea of everyone driving around in expensive cars and, you know, burning fuel, and I hate to see all fireworks and all the money and wealth on display. Like, that's just not for me. All that aside as well, I find it a little bit hard to get behind because inherently watching people driving is probably not as interesting as, say, if you're watching like a boxing movie, you're actually watching people fight, you know, so you can get behind it. Or even I was thinking of Challengers last year, and you know how great it was to watch a tennis movie. Like, that's really compelling. So I miss that part of this. I know I mentioned earlier that I really enjoyed Senna, but Senna's a documentary. It's a very different beast than this, and it's made by the incredible Asif Kapadia. I would not put this film in that league. And finally, I really dislike the fact that there were only 2 female characters and they were rightly shortchanged. I'll get to that in Spoiler Street, albeit I think Kerry Condon's possibly the best thing in the film. I was disappointed with what they did with her character. So overall, yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. Like, I'm glad we saw it, but by no means do I think it's a particularly good film. Dave?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it as well. I thought a lot of it was great. There were moments in this film where I was not only leaning forward, I was like, I actually held my breath, and I was like, oh my god. So I was really engaged in. I actually disagree with you. I thought the driving scenes were incredible and thrilling, and as exciting, if not more exciting, than watching boxing,
Challengers,
or tennis. Now, I don't necessarily see your point. That I don't think it was dull at all. In fact, I think the hero of this film is the editor or editors, because to be able to F1, which by the way I also don't understand and know nothing about, so apologies to anyone
like,
who does.
I know who Lewis Hamilton is, so like,
yeah.
He showed up. I knew him, but I could tell there were lots of other cameos because of how the camera lingered on them, but like, I didn't know who they were.
Yeah, we don't know anything about F1, the ins and outs of it, and I don't, so we cannot also analyze or interpret this film's success or lack of success in communicating accurately the ins and outs of F1. But I feel like if it is all to be believed, then I felt like I have a better understanding of the ins and outs of F1 having watched the movie. But I think the editing is incredible because it's a difficult sport to interpret into a movie, unlike boxing, which is just 2 people going up against
boxing
each other.
Boxing is just inherently cinematic.
Exactly. I think it's very easy. Now, and you know, we've seen various highs and lows of boxing being portrayed on cinema. I'm not saying it's you know, there's gradient there, but F1 is the challenging thing because there's 20 or so cars, right, on the track. It's a sport that seems to go on for I don't know how long, an hour, more, who knows? I know nothing. It's hours. There's 70 laps.
They'd be like, oh, we're on lap X, and I'd be like, I don't care. What does that mean?
Yeah, and
also, like, judging by this film, it only matters who wins the very last race.
Well, yeah.
I'm
There's
so
also
confused.
all the other intricacies. There's points like this, so it's a series of Grand Prix. Then there's points. So I don't know. The film didn't really give me a great sense of the ins and outs of that. And then there's also all this other complexity of like, which I was hinting at earlier. Like tires are important. Like which tires you're putting on, when, and then there's what
just lost me all that stuff.
what really gave me but I gotta say the movie communicates just enough to give you a sense of what's happening right now and what they're doing and what are the stakes.
Like right now,
I was
but
never confused.
Within every moment I could figure out what was happening, but like I truly didn't understand where we were going or how anyone was going to win this.
I'll give you an example, and I don't. This isn't a spoiler, but like I don't know anything. I still don't know what the difference is between hard tires and soft tires, or warming up your tires.
Soft
and all
tires
this.
will make you go faster, but they've no grip.
Is
Even
that
I
it?
got that,
Is
yeah.
that it? Okay, fine.
So you want to have soft tires, but if you're going to drive for too far, they'll burn out, and if it's raining, they're too slippy.
Exactly. So there's all this nuance, right? And you may have explained it perfectly there. I still don't. I don't care. I don't understand. But the movie.
Every time they talked about tires, I was like, please.
There's so much tires in this. This movie's all tires.
Talking about tires.
But what the movie will communicate effectively is the tires are the subject, but what is the dynamic of this team? The movie will communicate effectively that Brad Pitt's character, Sonny Hayes, who I'll talk about in a minute, and
Dear
I hate him. He wants
Even his name
he wants a different
hateable.
type of tires than the team is telling him to do. Right? He's saying, "No, give me the Plan C tires," and they're like, "Plan C? You're crazy! That's not till lap 60."
We
and
said
so
hard,
the movie.
No, this is the tire. So first we're hard, then we're soft, then we're hard. And he's like, no, I want hard, soft.
I want hard, soft. So it's like, I don't care what any of this means, but the movie, I think, perfectly communicates that this guy is a renegade and not a team player, which is what the plot of this movie is. And minute to minute, I understand what he's doing, what the impact on his teammate is. Like, I thought the movie did an incredible job of making a very dense and complex sport digestible and understandable to an audience who doesn't have a fucking clue, which is me.
No,
So,
a lot of
and I
people-
found a lot of it thrilling.
And I think they've probably to
And-
straddle a line because they actually like licensed F1. They
Yeah,
bought the
this is
license of it.
F1 registered trademark, the movie. So a lot of this is just an ad for F1,
Yeah,
effectively.
exactly. And
Now-
like that's why I think they have to be probably careful then of over explaining it, because you'd have all the diehards being like, we know
And
that.
you
That's
can't
boring.
exactly.
Yeah.
And look, I just think you can't please anyone. So I think they did a great job. And technically, I'd love to look at how they did this, because it looks real at all times. Like I don't know. I'm sure there's computer effects littered in here, but I know they invented some sort of, with Apple, who made this movie, invented some like modified like iPhone to go on the cars, much like they did in Top Gun Maverick. You're in the seat with them. You've got perfect views of them. They look like they're in the cars. I'm sure Brad Pitt wasn't on a F1 track driving an F1 car. I don't know how
We
they
did
did
do
it.
some driving.
We did.
But, like, again,
He's
it's all
clearly
just-
there with the
But
helmet.
it's
He's
clearly
driving
just-
something.
It's clearly just wish fulfillment for a fucking old man who wants to be driving F1s as well, though. I was just rolling my eyes at
whatever
him.
about that. But
Like Tom Cruise flies planes, Brad Pitt. What are you doing? Getting in an F1 car?
Well,
So
look,
what?
So what? He's driving. He is driving. The other actor playing his co-worker, they just look like they're driving. There's like all the driving stuff looked real. I could have been watching the sport. So honestly, I thought all the driving stuff was incredible. I wish we were watching this in IMAX. I'd say it's amazing. The sound design was incredible. So this film, as a technical achievement of translating F1 and making it exciting, I think is an absolute marvel, and I was super impressed. The story and the characters are dog
like-
turds. It's dreadful.
He's like he's a caricature.
Everything else in the movie is bad.
He's a caricature of like 1,000 men.
Not
we've seen
only, I'm
before.
sorry, not only is he a caricature of every renegade, doesn't play by the rules, team guy, cool guy,
Straight talker.
Swish plays cards, gambler, straight talker. I mean, like every bloody cliche on the cliche tree.
Like when I say my eyes rolled back into my head watching Brad Pitt in this film.
But here's the thing, you can have that character with all those cliches, and we've seen 100 actors play that character over the years, and we've seen excellent actors like Robert Redford, Paul Newman, even Mel Gibson in Maverick. Like, there's people who play these characters and you just like them. You're on board with them.
No, we do.
They're
We're not endorsing Mel
charming.
Gibson on this podcast.
So that's not me endorsing Mel Gibson. I just invoked his name from a character.
I'm just
Um,
clarifying.
Yeah, if it remains unclear, we don't endorse Mel Gibson. What are you talking about, Kathy?
And Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick nails it.
And by the way, I don't endorse Tom Cruise or any of his. I don't endorse any of these people. But Brad Pitt's character in this, Sonny Hayes, is just an asshole. He's
Yeah.
hateable, and I think he's supposed to be an asshole. They call him an asshole.
I don't think
but you're
he's that-
supposed to like him.
No,
I think.
don't think he's. I actually don't think he's hateable. Can I tell you what I think he is?
Oh yeah, go on.
It's tedious.
He is. He's tedious.
boring.
He's so annoying.
He's not hateable. Like, he has a few redeeming moments.
No, I wanted him to die.
He's just
At all times, I wanted him to crash and die.
I'm just so bored of watching characters like him. Like, he's brought nothing to screen. Like,
Nothing.
you've got this
He has
money.
no character, and we'll talk about it in
Yeah.
spoilers. There is nothing
I'm
there.
interested in the rookie guy, or not the rookie. He's not a rookie, but he's the young guy. I got nothing of him in this
But
film.
like you said, there's no room for him to have a character arc because Brad Pitt's character's eating up all the space.
Yeah, and like, it made me laugh so much because Brad Pitt's obviously the producer of this film, owns this film, is like the name that got this film made, right? He's got complete control at all times, excepting when he's actually in the race car or in the kind of F1 costume. He is either shirt unbuttoned halfway or topless. Okay, Brad
Way
Pitt.
too many buttons.
Like, we get it. We get it. You work out 8 hours a day. You're a good-looking man. Have you nothing else to offer? Like, it's actually pathetically
He really
embarrassing.
doesn't. It's not a great acting performance either. Honestly,
There's a scene
there's
where
no
he does.
character.
There's a scene where he does a soliloquy on a balcony, and
it's pathetic.
I laugh.
It's
out
so
loud.
bad.
Yeah.
And he's staring off into the distance and trying to be all
and it's
cool.
funny
And I'm
'cause
like,
they had Tom Cruise at the premiere of it last week, and which is a great idea. Obviously, it was like, oh, they're reunited from Interview with the Vampire, like, good stunt. And obviously, Tom Cruise is like backing cinema and like backing. You know, he'd be backing the fact that, like, you know, Brad Pitt actually got in and did some of the driving. But sorry, Tom Cruise, you actually hang off airplanes and you can actually deliver good scenes. I don't think Tom Cruise should be putting himself in this league with Brad Pitt, because Tom Cruise is like 5 notches above him in my mind in terms of an action star and an actor who can deliver with pathos.
wait, come on, just pause for a second. Are you endorsing Tom Cruise and Scientology? Is that what you're saying? Kathy, that's what I'm hearing.
I converted to Scientology, actually. Did I not tell you? I'm just saying Tom Cruise shouldn't lower himself to be on the carpet with Brad Pitt.
Okay, sure. I feel like we need to get to spoilers to talk about why, and specifically why and how bad these characters ruin the movie. The other guy, Joshua Pierce, doesn't get enough room.
He's great, though.
He's good. The
Every time I
actor's
felt
good.
like we were going to get a glimpse more. Like, at one point, Brad Pitt goes, tell me about the kid, to Javier Bardem, and I said, oh, we're going to learn about the kid.
Yeah, nothing. And then it cuts away. I'm like, I'd love to have heard that conversation.
I'm guessing now because I can't remember. I'm sure it cut to Brad Pitt just topless, lying on a bed, shuffling
Why
cards.
is he? There's a press conference, their first press conference, and Brad Pitt has like 6 buttons undone on his shirt. Like, I could see his nipples.
Because he told
And he-
the wardrobe assistant at all times, I must be showing off my pecs.
Yeah, it's dreadful.
Like, I'm a 60-year-old man to have a body like this. He must be working out 10 hours a day.
Yeah,
All he drinks is protein.
And look, fair play to him. He's 61 years old. He looks great.
He does, but like, we get it. Like, have you nothing
Yeah,
else
there's
to
nothing.
show
There's
us?
nothing else there.
Like, we understand. Like, we've seen Thelma and Louise. We know what you look like. We know what you're bringing to the table on that front.
Okay, just before we get to spoilers here, I think let's quickly analyse this as a sports movie, right? And I think this is where you can see the failures of the plot
I have a question for you then.
and the characters.
And
Go
I've
on.
been thinking about this a lot. So obviously the kids are on summer holidays now in Ireland, not yet in the UK. So one of our kids watched Cool Runnings this week.
Yeah.
Epic film, which we reviewed over on Patreon.
I think you're about to say the same thing I'm trying to say. Go on.
I didn't know anything about bobsleighing when I watched that film. I don't know anything about F1 when I watched this film. At the end of both films, which sport do I know about? I know about turn 3 in bobsleighing and how Jamaica need to watch out for it. I understand the dynamic.
That doesn't. Okay.
I know how the team works. I understand the sport. I understand how you win, how you don't win. I've walked away from the F movie, not a clue.
Okay,
Not a clue
We're
about
not
this
we're not
sport.
talking about the same things. Look,
I'm saying a good sports movie.
No.
You should come away with at least a grasp of what
no,
you're
that's
following.
not what a good. I just disagree.
Now, there's
You
many,
don't need
Dave,
to.
Dave, stop.
Sports movies aren't
Stop.
there to educate you on the
Dave,
sport.
There's many things that make a good sport movie. I'm saying one of them is you should at least have a clue what you're following, and I didn't have that
I
clue.
disagree. And see my previous statement. F1 is incredibly complex. You can't come away with an understanding of
Yes,
F1.
you can.
What you
because
need,
right at the
listen.
no, listen.
There's
let me
two
finish.
things. No, you listen.
At the very beginning of the film, and I know I said the diehards might get bored if you too much exposition throughout. I agree. At the beginning of the film, they did a thing where they were like, "There's 10 races left, right?" And blah blah blah. And they did a thing. In that, if they'd just given us another like 30 seconds and explained
No.
whether you're accruing points throughout or you're accruing, like, if all you get, if you win 9 out of 10 Grand Prix, is all you get that you're number one on the last race? Or have you built up points? Like, I don't know. So therefore I was never thinking our guys were going to win, because I didn't even think that they had a skin in the
They
game.
did a totally fine job of establishing the stakes.
I don't
All
think
you
so.
need to know is they're at the bottom, they're the underdog, which is the first thing you need in a sports movie. You need an underdog.
You do
Fine.
need an underdog.
This movie has that. I thought they effectively established that this team, which I think is imaginary, Apex, is bottom of the table. They haven't scored a single point. They haven't won a single race. So they're the mighty Ducks.
But how can you win if you're at the bottom, though? That's the bit I never got.
Yeah, I don't know. See my previous statement. I don't know how Formula One works. I don't know how you win, but I'm telling you, they established that these guys are underdogs. The next thing you need in a sports movie
But
is not a complete understanding.
Can I rebut that, though?
Rebut away.
The other thing that made me feel like we're not really talking about underdogs here, because I totally agree with you, it's the number one ingredient. When I'm watching Rocky Balboa, right,
Yeah.
and he's punching meat,
Yeah.
and he's poor, right?
Yeah.
He's running around training in a tracksuit.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's so much money in F1 that to be the bottom ranked, as Javier Bardem says, someone still spent like $250 million to
Yeah.
get you there. And they tried to make it seem to bring in an injection of reality whereby they had like
A guy in a van.
the young guy training on treadmills, and then we'd cut to, oh no, but Brad Pitt, he runs outside.
and he has 2 tennis balls, and that's
Exactly.
all the training
So
he needs.
That's where they tried to inject that reality, but it didn't work.
No, it
because
didn't work
Brad
at
Pitt
all.
has access to all the fancy gyms, so that's just a lifestyle choice.
And
so therefore, like, honestly, I know the stakes were set up, and that it's like, oh, they have to win or they're going to lose their team. When I tell you, I didn't once care if anyone lost their jobs, because they're still all rich.
They're all rich.
So to me, there were no stakes ever in it.
But it's all relative. They're underdogs in the top tier of, billion-dollar companies. Sorry, we had to turn it off there because we literally just ran into a listener. Somebody was waving at us.
And screamed Cinemile. So thank you for doing that. You took us so off guard that we didn't even respond.
And shout out to you. We didn't catch your name because you kept walking. But if you are listening to this, thank you for flagging us down
How
and
fun.
saying hello.
Anyway, what were we saying? Sorry, there was no underdog in this film. Therefore, I truly never cared. Unlike Challengers, to keep going back to Challengers,
Yeah.
but like, boy, was there an underdog.
Oh yeah,
in
he's
that
living
film.
in his car, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Whereas Brad Pitt just chooses to live in a van because he wants to be stylish. You know what I mean?
Look, underdogs are relative, but I want to circle back at a later lap because this film seems to be a huge talking point for us. I want to circle back as to the money and the excess of Formula One in general, because
Which
I had
turns my
similar.
stomach.
Yeah, it turned my stomach as well, and I want to come back to that. But the other thing, right, to analyze this as a sports movie, you need an underdog story. Yet you don't think it was quite there in terms of you don't think they sold them as underdogs. I think
like,
they.
sorry, you're speaking
I
to
think
someone
they
who
did.
watched Cool Runnings this week.
Look, it's all relative. It's they're underdogs and they're at the bottom of the table in the top tier best competition in the world. So that and it looks impossible to get there.
It doesn't though.
So that's one thing. The other thing a great sports movie needs is rivalry, right?
Yeah, which this film didn't have.
This movie, I think it's interesting that the movie's rivalry is set up between two teammates. So you've got Brad Pitt. This is the setup of the movie. Brad Pitt is an older, washed up. Kerry Condon calls him he's not a has-been. He's a never was.
I enjoyed that line.
Right, that's a good line. And this is his kind of one chance. He's been brought back in by a former teammate, or former rival, Javier Bardem, Ruben, who owns the team, to sort of rejuvenate them. So it's him, old guy, coming in, and you've got this young rookie who's hungry and wants it but doesn't have the experience, and they don't really get on and they're clashing. Now that, I think, is a good setup, and I think an interesting idea to not make them on rival teams. They have to work together. Now, the movie
Could have been interesting.
Exactly. The movie, and we'll talk about it in Spoiler Street, I think
The movie-
squanders this and goes back and
Blew
forth
it.
and blew it. It's a waste of time.
But it blew it because Brad Pitt only wanted the camera on him at all times.
Yeah, and also because Brad Pitt is just an irritating character. So I think that's where the movie falls over, is that the rivalry wasn't interesting enough, and so I'm just left to
The
look at the
rivalry,
technical
yeah.
marvelry of the F1.
The
That's
rivalry
the only
was
interesting
non-existent.
thing.
Like,
Exactly,
it
it's
was
non-existent. It's non-existent.
And
It's
there was
lame.
there was no rivalry with other teams.
And you're just waiting for it to get resolved. So
At
they
one point,
can...
I was just waiting for it to end. I kept looking at my
Yeah.
watch, going, "When is this film over?"
Anyway, will we go to spoilers then?
I think we should go to spoilers. Yeah.
Okay, so before we go to Spoiler Street, quick shout out to all our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/The Cinemile who listen to us, support us, and
Are the
chat to
best.
us every day in the community section on Patreon, which is the best social media platform on the internet.
It is, yeah.
And
they are all recommending F1 to us, so thanks, lads. Because we were like, oh, well, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna go.
Kathy doesn't mean that sarcastically. Like, we had a good
No,
time
they were
watching
no,
F1.
no. I was on the fence about going, and the patrons convinced me to go.
Yeah.
So
And it was
thank you
good. I
guys.
think
Yeah.
this was a worthwhile trip to the cinema, as much as we're shitting on it.
You know, it was a worthwhile trip, and so we're gonna go to a quick break, and then we'll be back to discuss spoilers.
Yeah.
What does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Right, okay, so let's get into spoilers now for F1, the movie. I think so. The biggest thing, I think, should we start at the ending?
No, can I talk about Carrie
Yeah.
Condon for a bit?
Yes, please do.
So there are two female characters in this film, right? In the
Who never
whole
speak
film.
to each other.
In the whole film.
So they don't even get to step 2 of the Bechdel test.
Yeah, they never speak to each other. So the Bechdel test, for anyone who doesn't know, is a famous and very simple test devised to see what role women have in a film. So there's very few criteria. 1, there needs to be 2 women who have a conversation with each other, and 2, that conversation can't be about a man. Now, almost every film on the planet
It's
fails
actually
that
3
test.
steps.
And this film fails it. Well, this film fails just on those 2 alone. Anyway, so the minor female character is, oh my god, wait for the trope, a klutz. So she's dropping wrenches, she's banging into people, she's in the wrong film. She's actually at the pit stop in F1, right? So for
The
any
Brad
of us to
Pitt
imagine,
stop?
So how good you'd have to be to get to a pit stop in F1, right? She's literally dropping things, making mistakes. The younger guy is barely mean to her. He kind of, I think, rightfully pulls her up on dropping a wrench in the middle of his pit stop.
Joshua Pierce.
And then Brad Pitt's like, don't worry about it. And then Brad Pitt, she starts jogging with him, and then at the end she's
so
like, she's
pathetic.
a great mechanic, right? That's her plot. It's just beyond embarrassing.
Her plot is a man was nice to her and she was able to do
And
her
she's,
job
like,
properly.
Gurningly happy at the end, right? She's literally jumping up and down with excitement to go jogging, right? Okay, that's her plot.
So pathetic. When he pulled out the socks and I was
stop,
like,
lads.
oh, I wanted
that's
to
her
die.
plot. And
He's
then-
like, don't worry everyone, I'm just now Brad Pitt's character.
Yeah, and then-
now we go running together.
And then Carrie Condon is like the first, we learn through some clunky dialogue, the first ever female technical director of an F1 team, right? And her job is to like make the car. And she's great, right? I love her. I think she's the absolute best thing in the film. I really think she's
really
brilliant.
charming.
She's so charming, right? And this is not racial bias just because she's Irish. Anyway, Brad Pitt's like, I think you need to turn the car into a battle machine or something like that. Combat machine. And she's like, fuck off. I really enjoyed this scene. She basically says, fuck off, when you finish a race, come back to me. And then he finishes one race, and then now she's like a child, like a puppy who was in this man's lap. She said, just because of that one conversation we had, I'm now going to do what you told me, you who are not a technical director. And she changes the car to do what Brad Pitt said. And then she ends up in a romantic plot where like he's spinning her around and they're like flirting, and then they have the scene where she says, I don't sleep with my co-workers during the season, all I want to do is win, like I'm really career driven. And then
But
she
also
learns,
you're Brad Pitt.
and then she learns that he let the guy win in cards, and next minute she's having sex with him. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
and by the way, I have no problem with women being well-rounded sexual characters in film. That's fine. But this film set her up only to be Brad Pitt's love interest.
Yeah, exactly.
That was her primary motivation, to help him on his journey. And it absolutely wrecked my head, and I was just so frustrated by the whole thing.
She's no character arc.
She's no character arc, and not in the least that she's also 20 years younger than Brad Pitt.
No one has
Cast women who are the same age as men as love interests, okay?
Yeah.
There's no way this 40-year-old technical director, she's that accomplished at her age, that she is blowing any chances with this fucking loser who lives in his truck and who's a total head wreck.
Let's talk about why he's such a loser of a character. I hate him. Firstly, he's a character who is always right. He's right about everything at all time, and he takes risks.
In the film's defense, it does acknowledge, like, the film isn't telling us he's not an asshole, and I will give that to Brad Pitt and the film's credit. Like, everyone's calling him an asshole as well.
Yes, but I think, as per what I said earlier, we're supposed to love him as an audience because he's a straight talker and he says what he thinks and he's always right, you know.
And he's always doing pull-ups.
And he's always doing crazy stuff on the track and kind of half cheating and like.
Oh, sorry, that's my main question.
He's reckless. One thing I really liked about this movie is that it gave me an appreciation for the fact that, and I think Kerry Condon says as much, that F1 is actually a team sport. And even the movie Senna doesn't sell this because it's about him.
In her one really good scene where she lays into him, which I loved, she's like, it's a team sport.
Yeah.
You're a loose cannon. Fuck off.
It's not all about the drivers who are the face of everything and the publicity and blah, blah, blah. Like, they are the face of it. But what I didn't realise, and I went through a roller coaster of emotions with this film, when firstly I had a real appreciation for the film sells the amount of hard work, engineering and ingenuity and just dozens of people. Like it's like NASA when each team has a NASA command center with like rows of people at computers calculating, like trying to shave, you know, 0.01 of a second off laps to anything they can scrounge. Like, and even Brad Pitt acknowledges this at one point, you know, if you can save me half a second at the pit stop and you can save me half a second at whatever on the tires, and it's like then we gain. It's all incremental.
Yeah, I really
like this idea
stuff.
And I love this idea of like they all have these team meetings before every race. They have strategies. Like I had a real newfound appreciation for how much work and just like human ingenuity and the engineering of these vehicles, and it's incredible. And then also then I realized what a waste of time and money that we're putting all this talent and all this, like the car itself is worth 150 million and he just fucking crashes it on a Tesla. And I'm like, what are we doing here that we're watching a $200 million movie about a $1 billion industry with some of the best talents? Like Kerry Condon's character references she was in aerospace engineering, something which has actual practical value
and the
for
other
the
guy,
human species.
Kim Bowden, who we love from The Bridge, was saying like, I won 5 in a row Mercedes bloody F1s, whatever.
By the way, he got no character arc at all. It was just like, I don't like Brad Pitt and now I like Brad Pitt.
Background characters only character arc.
Why? Come on, give him something. He had a family in one scene at the beginning, and like it was nothing there.
I don't need him to have a character. I need Kerry Condon to have a character arc, which she didn't, and I needed the young guy to have a character arc, which he kind
didn't.
of vaguely.
Barely. His character arc was the same. I'm a bit brash, and I don't have the experience. Oh, but by the way, just on this quick subject, his character arc is.
And he's
I'm
such
brash
a good
and I'm the
actor.
best.
Do you know him?
Yeah, no, I don't. He's really good. But
he's really good.
His resolution of his character arc was pathetic. He instead of becoming his own person and becoming a little bit more wise and confident, he just spouts off does the same things that Brad Pitt does, as if that is the be all and end all. Suddenly he starts throwing tennis balls instead of going on a treadmill. He runs with the team.
I disagree with that. So I think there's certain behaviours he was emulating, which in fairness I think he learned a lesson, because he was very rude to the team and he learned that he needs to collaborate with the team. So that's no problem with him learning that lesson.
But Brad Pitt is nothing but rude to the team. Anyway, sorry.
No, Brad Pitt, they're different. Brad Pitt was disagreeing with them on strategy, but he was getting to know them as people, where your man wasn't, right? And then also I think the main lesson that he was supposed to learn from Brad Pitt was which they got to, in the scene I really enjoyed, and probably one of my favourite scenes was the two of them with Kerry Condon in the bar. and that exchange between them, and he, you know, Brad Pitt's like, you need to learn patience, and then he says, you need to learn how to listen, and Brad Pitt genuinely is like, what? Yeah. Like, I thought that was a fun scene.
They almost got to some interesting character stuff there.
And then she said, when did both your parents die? And both your dads died, and they both said, what was it? 13. So we're getting there with him. Like, his dad died when he was young. He's very close with his mother. He's got a agent, I think, who's pushing him down the wrong road. There was nuggets of good stuff in there, and I thought the actor was brilliant. He's such good screen presence.
Really charismatic.
And he kind of mentioned that he liked the clothes at one point, and they were showing, I think they were sponsored by, like, I can't remember, Tommy Hilfiger or something. And like, he was like a model, right? I presume he is a model wearing those clothes. So like, they were getting there with him, and then they never let us breathe with him as a character. They just bring us back to Brad Pitt again. And my main kind of, I guess, misunderstanding or not knowing what's going on here, when Brad Pitt's up to all his shenanigans in the tracks, and to your point about all the money in F1, there's no way, and maybe I'm wrong, and like, listeners who watch F1, will you actually please message us about this, because it left us completely confused. As if Brad Pitt can just be manipulating pit stops, deliberately ramming people off the road, deliberately causing his tyres to flake into people's eyes, like causing absolute havoc and shenanigans, and all he'd get is like, what, a 5-second penalty? Can people cheat in F1 like that? Because that's the bit that I would have thought. Like,
I was also confused by, while you're writing into us, please explain why. Like, it seemed to me that the commentators, who we hear constantly, were commentating on the conversation that Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce were having with their tech teams, and the back and forth. So is that a public channel? Because if so, then it's very clear that he's cheating, right? Or not cheating. He's using the rules to his advantage by pretending to slip up and knock into people.
At one point they said, oh, Sonny Hayes is talking through the open radio, so I think he might have done that by accident, because surely when you're doing team strategy by the end, where they're saying they're doing some sort of like a pincer movement on Lewis Hamilton, I don't know. But the thing with the Lewis Hamilton cameo is, right, and I saw that he was credited as a producer, and then he briefly showed up, but the final race is like laughably but supposed to be between these two lads and
the best F1 driver in the world,
this owl fella who's just been in hospital, this young guy who's like good but a bit of a rookie, and who himself has just been in hospital, and Lewis Hamilton, who's like the best F1 driver of all time, even I know that, and they're like doing this thing against Lewis Hamilton. But they should have got Lewis Hamilton to just do a little bit of acting so that he was in a car.
Maybe he wasn't comfortable doing that.
Because they only have, for some reason, there's no other cars left on the track at the end, which was just hilarious. So it's just those 3 cars. And then they're like, ooh, it's these 2 and Lewis Hamilton. And we had just seen Lewis Hamilton get into the car, and then we never saw him again. So I think cinematically, and I'm sure maybe they couldn't afford... I
think you just stay on your characters. I think that's fine.
But this is where it doesn't work for me, because like when we're watching a typical sports movie, we see the opponents. But this is just like faceless. It's just like watching a PlayStation game to me. Watching just these 3 cars. And then I'm sorry, at the end, like what absolutely incensed me is the end of the film should have been the young guy winning.
Yes, right.
And then Brad Pitt like stole the win.
Can we talk about that? No, he didn't. They were very careful around this.
No, I'm saying Brad Pitt.
He didn't steal it. They crashed. The other guy crashed into
I'm not talking about Sonny, the character. I'm
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt,
oh yeah,
producer.
for sure.
Brad Pitt was like,
wrong choice.
I'm
wrong
not
ending.
walking out of that film without me winning.
Now here's the thing. Great setup to have literally Lewis Hamilton first, them in second and third. Only one of them can win it, but only one of them, because he'll defend against one of them, and the other will win.
Was still in third, which by the way they've not managed all season.
No, but I thought that was such a great, like almost prisoner's dilemma setup. Like, only one of you can win. You both want this. You've had a rivalry the whole movie. What do you do with that?
Well, no, and you've nominally had a rival the whole movie. You've had like 3 scenes together.
Well, yeah, whatever. I think, and the movie does go for the Brad Pitt steps back. This is your win. You take it, rookie. You know, and I do think that's the more interesting ending, in that this character, Sonny Hayes, some people don't get to achieve their dreams, and he expresses this desire to just win one race in his whole life, to hit that moment where he's flying again. Cheesiest and most annoying part of the movie, where Kerry Condon. So when he's driving that finishing lap, and one of the technicians is like, "What's he doing?" She's like, he's flying.
Chekhov's flying.
But I'm like, why? You turned to me in the cinema
He
and said this.
shouted on for 5 minutes in the balcony about it.
So bad.
In one of the worst acting scenes I've ever watched.
And then-
So it's like,
you,
all right.
you turned to me in the cinema and said this, like, why would the technician say, what's he doing? Because he's just driving. He's just driving towards the finish line. What are you talking
I'm
about?
sorry.
He's
why
not
are there-
actually flying.
And I know I don't know how F1 works, but they did say in the film that the difference between first and last place is usually 75 seconds, right? So why at the end, when the two lads in Lewis Hamilton are in the top 3, why are there no other cars on the track? And at the end, why is Brad Pitt the only driver?
I don't know. Look, that's fine because he's
and why
flying.
does he win? It's like, I genuinely don't think it was his place to win.
It's just I think it's the inferior ending to someone realizing that you just cannot achieve your dreams sometimes, and to be left hanging with that. That's more raw and realistic.
Also, wouldn't coming third in F1 be a dream achievement?
Yeah, sometimes you get super close, and that was
third
your
price is still like this team had never even made a podium before.
Yeah.
So. To me, I didn't understand
It
why
was
one
just
getting first and one getting third. And also at the end, I'm very confused. I'm like, did they win the whole F1?
I don't know. I don't know if they
what-
won.
what-
I don't
what
think
did-
so because they wouldn't have had enough points. I don't know. Someone explain. Message us.
And that's what I mean. Like, I never understood at the end what it even meant for someone to come first.
I think it just means they won that race. They won. The team won that had never won 0 points. They had a first and third place. Brad Pitt, obviously, Sonny Hayes got to have his victory or whatever. But like, I think it was a lame ending.
Can
it
I
was
tell
really
you something
pathetic.
I thought was really disrespectful?
Go on.
So basically, the only F1 player I know anything about is Senna from the documentary I mentioned. The fact that they evoked Senna and said that Brad Pitt's final race in the F1 was against Senna, I found really disrespectful. I just thought
Why?
you shouldn't be retconning an already pretty pathetic, paper-thin character, trying to add him more depth by actually using someone who's a real legend who really died. I just found it very disrespectful. I didn't
Okay.
agree with it. I don't mind them beating
I thought
Lewis,
that was fine.
Lewis Hamilton in a
They
race.
didn't say. They just said he was racing against him and he was ahead of him and then he crashed.
Yeah, but why
What's wrong
mention
with
Senna?
that?
Like, they're just trying to add depth to Brad Pitt's character that doesn't exist.
Senna was a legend in that sport.
I
You're
know
just
he was.
referencing him. It's not exploited.
I just think that I just thought it was poor writing, and I think they should have done more to add depth to him and not evoke a dead man. But I don't mind them racing against Lewis Hamilton, obviously, because he's consented to this. He's produced the film.
Yeah.
It's utterly hilarious to think that
What
Brad
about
Pitt would
Michael
have beaten
Schumacher?
him.
They said his name. Does that bother you?
Well, they didn't show us footage of him racing
okay.
him, though.
Um,
So I think we've talked about this.
Can
film
I?
enough.
I've got one. Yeah, I've done. We really have.
Yeah, we've
I
talked
didn't
way
think-
too long.
One last thing I'd like to say and praise the film for. I thought the race in the middle, in which Joshua Pierce crashes, and where Brad Pitt is bringing in the safety car and buying him these seconds, and he's moving up.
That was fun.
I thought that was the best race in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was better than the last race.
Because it was Brad Pitt
thrilling.
trying to help the young guy.
Exactly, and it was really. I thought it was such an interesting and clever dynamic to have him at last place, 20th, and this is where they give him a little bit of character progression because we think he's this renegade solo guy, and he kind of is. And then Kerry Condon says this is a team sport, and suddenly he's at the back helping out his teammate at the front. I thought that was awesome, and I loved it.
That
and
was the peak of the film, I think.
I think so. I think it was the peak, and
Because
when he
she's
crashed,
she's just torn the arse off him and told him off. Then they've gone and done this amazing scene, and then after that, it was just like the Brad Pitt show, and then her simpering over him.
Oh, for sure, her
Yeah.
her character collapses. Go back to aerospace engineering.
Yeah.
The but that crash, honestly, that's the moment where I was like, oh my god! Like I realized I was like at the edge of my seat.
Because it was some crazy
It was
crash.
the flip was insane. I'm sure that was computer graphics, and the explosion. I thought, oh my god! I actually thought he's dead. He's died.
And then it was just a bit of a sore hand. I'm grand.
I mean, that was a bit of a pathetic whimper. But for me, the movie went downhill after that
Yeah.
because I got off my seat, like I was like at the edge of my seat, literally.
I think it
and
happened
I was like,
too early in the film, or the film. Well, also the film was definitely too long, so the pacing of that all just got a bit off. I think that was like a climactic moment. So then it kind of just fizzled a
Also,
bit.
the other issue is from a narrative point of view, from their rivalry should have been solved at that point.
Yeah.
But the problem is the movie kept yo-yoing their rivalry back and forth. So what happens is Pierce can't drive and he's watching Brad Pitt become successful in a montage and he gets bitter and then they're fighting again and going out. And I'm just like, you're just going around in circles now. This
Yeah.
is literally laps. Like, you've resolved the rivalry, move on.
And the rivalry never really built to begin with. It was just him saying, "Oh, you're old," and then Brad Pitt saying, "Well, you've never won a race," and you know, never concede. Like they never built up to a big rivalry to begin
agree.
with. So the
I
whole
agree.
thing just never landed.
It doesn't get big enough
Yeah,
as a rivalry.
And like, just briefly on Javier Bardem, I thought he was great. I was really glad to see him in here. I enjoyed him. I have a question though. So at the very beginning, when Brad Pitt wins whatever he won, was it Daytona or something?
Yeah.
And then
That's a
he's
pretty
just-
good opening as well.
It was a great opening.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was really good. And then he's in a diner, and then Javier Bardem just shows up.
Yeah.
How?
No, he's in a laundrette.
Oh yeah, even worse. How is Javier Bardem there?
It's because he knows.
How has he found him?
Everyone knows where Sonny Hayes does his laundry. Are you kidding?
Why? And why did, as a, like, I understand like a cute reference to them being old friends and like, but Javier Bardem walks in and goes, "Can I make a call for yourself?"
I know, what a
And Brad
weird
Pitt goes,
way to...
"No." And then they're like, "Hey, old friend," and I'm like, "Wait, what? What was I just watching though?"
You
What?
remind me of a guy used to be a washed-up race driver. Best I ever saw.
And one more thing I really enjoyed, and my favourite thing was the corporate espionage of the guy.
Oh,
like,
your man from Game of Thrones.
exactly.
I love him.
He, like us, doesn't understand F1. And
I love when he said, "I binged Drive to Survive" over
I
the
love
weekend.
that.
That's a great line.
And I love when he goes, "That's a penalty." and I love his desire to like
His pretending
undercut the whole thing
to cheer for when he's against. That was great.
I honestly, he brought like some much needed lightness to the film.
Well, do you know why? Because
The film was, because
Yeah,
a lot of it was very humorless.
great lightness, but also he brought a bit of rivalry, which we were lacking
Yeah,
at this
he
point.
actually-
There was a villain.
He brought the rivalry.
Yeah.
And then there's a moment where Brad Pitt sends a text to him with a middle finger, and I kind of laughed, but I thought afterwards, wouldn't it have been cooler if Sonny Hayes just actually gave him the finger?
I know. I thought that was quite good.
Kinda
Was quite good with
Yeah.
the text.
Anyway, I enjoyed that plot. Right, we do need to go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this review, we please ask that you leave us 5 stars wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and even if you write a little review, that really helps us. So we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, and don't forget you can also email us thecinemile@gmail.com or look for @thecinemile on Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, YouTube, and hope to see you on any of those places.
Bye.
Bye.